Present.
Mark Farrell.
Present.
Paul Pickney.
Here.
Elaine McDaniel Coleman.
Present.
Joseph DeForest.
Present.
Terry Baxter.
Aye.
Joseph Bennett.
Present.
Frank Reginelli.
Here.
Patrick Mahonik.
Here.
Timothy Lattimore is excused. Michael Didio.
Here.
Ryan Foley.
Present.
Keith Batman.
Present.
If we could stand for a pledge, a moment of silence. Thank you.
Our sincere condolences to the family and friends of Dr. Peter Madura, whose dedication to the needs of people with disabilities in Cayuga County made possible the Cayuga County Community Mental Health Center. He served as director from 1960 to 1987. He retired in 1984, and the county's mental health building is dedicated to him. He also served as a captain in the United States Army from 1945 to 1947 with the 27th and the 25th Infantry Divisions and was part of the occupation of Japan. Ruth Griffith Scholes, former Cayuga County legislator for 10 years, teacher and active community member. She was instrumental in the renovation of Emerson Park and the creation of the Cayuga County Nursing Home, and she also established a county business administrator position. Proclamations. Mr. Didio, would you come up?
I'll wait till I get to the microphone. Bring Lon Fracano. You could come up, please. The proclamation that we have here is presented to the HEAL, the Heroin Epidemic Action League, and certainly Dr. Duckett can come up also. He's recognized. Lon and the doctor have been instrumental in forming this group along with some other people that day in and day out they do their best to inform people. We don't think there's enough of that, and we'd like to carry that on. So I'm honored to read this proclamation, and just bear with me, and I'll begin at the beginning. Heroin Epidemic Action League, HEAL, June 28, 2016. Whereas HEAL, Heroin Epidemic Action League, was formed in September 23, 2015 to fill a void in the community by hosting meetings for heroin addicts and their families. And whereas the HEAL group since then has held many events to bring this epidemic out into the open. Their mission is to create a community-wide effort to prevent substance abuse and initiate and implement needed resources for assist those affected by the disease of addiction. And whereas the opioid and heroin epidemic is one of Central New York's most serious health problems and has impacted the lives of thousands of families throughout the entire region. And whereas our federal representatives in the United States House of Representatives and Senate have urged the Office of National Drug Control Policy to hold a community forum on the opioid and heroin epidemic in Central New York, and whereas locally the epidemic has impacted hundreds of individuals in Cayuga County through personal addiction to the drugs and has tragically ended the lives of dozens of individuals. And whereas in addition to awareness events, the group is interested in advocating for rehabilitation and crisis centers for heroin addicts, and whereas it is imperative that all levels of our government and local community resources continue to work together to advance legislation, create awareness, and enhance treatment options, and provide adequate funding to curb this opioid and heroin abuse epidemic. Now therefore be it resolved that in light of the tragic circumstances associated with the opioid and heroin epidemic, the Cayuga County Legislature urges the Office of National Drug Control Policy to host a community forum in Central New York to address the growing need for treatment and prevention opportunities for this epidemic, and be it further resolved that we, Keith M. Batman, Chairman of the Cayuga County Legislature, and fellow legislators, do hereby proclaim our gratitude and urge the residents of our county to join us in support of HEAL Heroin Epidemic Action League and help prevent substance abuse in Cayuga County. With the seal of Cayuga County, and I'm honored to present this particular proclamation.
Thank you very much, Mike. And if I seem a little distracted, it's because I'm partially preparing myself for an imminent childbirth, just in case. I want to thank you for this, but I want to make a couple of points. Here in Cayuga County, we have the highest per capita death rate from opioid and polysubstance abuse addiction in the state of New York. Not the highest number of deaths, but a very high per capita rate. You can't throw a rock in Cayuga County without hitting 3 people that have not been affected by this. And so what's really neat is I look around this room, and there are 6 people in this room who are intimately involved in this project. Your coroner, Ray Bizzari, our sheriff, Mike, our district attorney, law enforcement, political officials, community leaders, the hospital. In an unprecedented fashion, educators have come together in Cayuga County to get behind this effort, the Heroin Epidemic Action League. As a result, we have attention in Albany. We've had meetings with the governor. We have chapters that have formed in other areas. There's a HEAL chapter in Casanova. There are other areas reaching out to us for help. We have addressed almost every 7th through 12th grader in this county, in the schools, to educate them, to raise their awareness, because what happens is, it's not some stranger that pops up out of a bush and offers your children drugs. It's a friend or family member. So somewhere along the line, those 11, 12, 13-year-old children, when mommy's not around, when daddy's not around, they're going to make maybe the most important adult decision of their life, to try something or not. And so one of our principal goals is to make sure they're prepared, they understand what this is, so they are ready to say no. Prevention is the most important activity we do, and we're working hard to find treatment. And to strip away the stigma of drug addiction as though it's just bad behavior. You know what? It's not. It's a disease. And people are subject to it. 82% of heroin addicts became addicted to opioids through physician-prescribed medication, not out on the street. Of the other 18%, most of those are people with underlying mental and emotional health issues that are self-medicating. These are your friends, your neighbors, your children, your family. These are not some, low-life people in the dark corners of the county. This is our everyday friends, neighbors, and families that we're fighting for. And we're fighting against a $100 billion a year industry that makes a living on pushing this poison and killing people, many times purposefully, making what we call kill bags. A certain number of bags of heroin are loaded with fentanyl with the idea that the person who uses that bag will die. Why? So that the rest of the people who are in a drug haze will think that dealer has the good stuff. It's a deep, deep problem. But here in Cayuga County, we have come together in an unprecedented way, and we are making an impact. The first day that we did our presentation at the Auburn High School to the 11th and 12th graders, 4 students went to their guidance counselors and said, I need help. So with your support, politically, as community leaders, as members of the community, as parents, as people who care, we are fighting a nightmare, and we have to change the world. We have to change the world, and that's what we're doing. We're trying to change the world. An entire generation is under attack by the most insidious, heartless enemy you can imagine, and it's on every street corner, right here in Little Auburn and in Cayuga County. So I thank you for the proclamation and your support. Please keep your eyes open. You all right back there? Okay. Please keep your eyes open. Look for opportunities to help us spread the message. We'll talk to anybody. We'll talk to any group, church groups. We'll go anywhere, speak to anyone to try to raise awareness, try to get the conversation going among parents and children so that we can begin to cut this head off this beast that's taking so many lives, and not just the ones who overdose and die, but for every one of those, there are hundreds more right here in Cayuga County that are struggling with addiction, that are on the conveyor belt heading for disaster. So thank you very much. Appreciate you listening and giving us this opportunity and this proclamation. It's very important. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ben Vitale, would you come up?
I'd like to invite Zachary and his parents, Joe and Beth, if they'd like to come up, please. This is a perfect follow-up to what we just had. It's always a great pleasure to do the proclamations for the Eagle Scouts, and I've had the opportunity to do several of them, and this one's no different. So, first of all, thank you for giving me the opportunity. Whereas in our society is an important civic responsibility and great honor for any government body to grant public recognition, admiration, and gratitude to the very citizens who have helped to build this community and influence the future of its citizens. And whereas the residents of Cayuga County, other individuals, and organizations are recognizing Zachary M. Bowden for his dedication as a Boy Scout of Troop 59 of Weedsport and earning the rank of Eagle Scout. And whereas Zachary's Eagle Scout Service Project, he constructed 99 care packages for the Corporal Kyle Snyder Foundation to military services overseas in March of 2014. He made requests to 13 area churches to assist in this endeavor, which entailed numerous returns to collect all that was needed. He also organized a car wash to further contributions to the foundation. And whereas Zachary earned his Ad Altamar Day emblem from St. Joseph's Church in Weedsport, New York, as well as his eagle, and whereas Zachary's actions are a role model to all young scouts who also wish to achieve the rank of Eagle Scout, and all other members of the community, the importance of the Boy Scout organization, and it is hereby resolved that we, Keith M. Batman, Chair of the Cayuga County Legislature, Benjamin P. Vitale, District 3, and fellow legislators do here proclaim our gratitude and urge the residents of Cayuga County to join with us in recognition of this significant achievement made by Zachary Bowden in earning his rank of Eagle Scout. On May 22nd, I had the honor to go to the church, and I didn't get a chance to present this plaque to Zach, but I encouraged them to come tonight so that I could. But it was really, really satisfying to go there and see a community that supports this type of activity. We need a lot more of that, as kind of just what we just listened to the last few minutes. If we had more of this, maybe we'd have a lot less of the other problems we have. But what was really interesting was to become an Eagle Scout, there's a lot of things you have to do. And Zach has done all that, but there's two people behind him that really make sure it happens. And those are, I can't even explain how important that is. Really, really difficult to raise great kids in this world today without having really great parents, and that's why I invited them up here tonight. And then it's the rest of the community that helps too, the church and Weedsport and everything. And so, the one thing I always say, and I'll say it again tonight, is an Eagle Scout is an Eagle Scout for life. You can't take it away from you. You don't forget about it when you go to college. When you're top 10 in your class, when you go to college, nobody cares. But when you're an Eagle Scout, you're an Eagle Scout for life, and I congratulate you.
The St. Baldrick's Day, June 12, 2016 proclamation has already been presented. And thank you to Keith for participating. And the Dulles Family Day in Cayuga County was presented on Saturday, June 11th by Tim Lattimore.
Great. Thank you. At this point, if we have any public who wish a few minutes to address us, we ask them to come forward. I know the, is Jamie here? Oh, there you are, yes. This, my turn? But yes, yeah. Unless, is there someone who wants to go first? Okay.
All right, I'll lead the way.
Please. And before you start, normally during the public to be heard, there's as we all know, there's not a dialogue. In this case, if people do have questions, and if the legislators have questions, we'd entertain them. So.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, members of the legislature, for having us today. Being in the food business, this is always kind of an awkward situation for me. I'm not used to the political aspects, but I'm learning. You know, we've been doing this for 5 years now. And I wanted to come today to speak to all of you. There's a few new faces here. Over the last 5 years, the group has changed a few times. And I wanted to come and just give some background about our contract, our relationship with the county, and some highlights of our performance. And then at the end, I'd like to give you folks an opportunity to ask us questions. I have with me tonight Tim Capwell, who's my operations manager for the Emerson Park Pavilion, along with some other facilities we have up in the Northern Territory here. Just a little bit of background. In 2009, there was a study done by Saratoga Associates of the Emerson Park Pavilion. They determined the highest and best use of the pavilion was as an event facility to be managed by one caterer. As a result, the Emerson Foundation made a $4 million investment to make the pavilion a premier event facility, and an RFP was released. In 2010, my company was selected to operate the facility based on our proposal and qualifying criteria, which was established by the county. And several of you that are present tonight were involved at that time and did vote for us to be selected. So the contract initially was from 2012, which is when we began, and it ran through 2015. There's three-year renewals built into that contract. So our intent and the county's intent at that time was that we were going to build a long-term relationship, work together to build the business at the pavilion, generate income for the county and my company. After 2 years of operation, we were granted our first extension option, which is currently in place through 2018. Based on the results of our positive relationship with the county, I intend to request a second 3-year extension. We are pleased with the current arrangement, our relationship with the county, and the level of customer satisfaction at the pavilion. Things are working out well. We haven't had any issues, no complaints, so as far as we're concerned, things are going very well. Just a few statistics. We do market the pavilion regionally, which makes us a little bit different than some other operators that did bid on it. 50% of our wedding customers do come from outside of Auburn. So we do bring a lot of folks into the Auburn community. This allows us to bring in over 5,000 visitors to the local community each year. The breakdown of events, we do about 60 weddings a year. They average about 175 people, so there's just over 10,000, almost 11,000 guests a year that we serve at the pavilion in the wedding sector. We also do about 20 non-weddings, so these would be things like retirement parties, holiday parties, corporate events. That's another 2,000 customers that we serve in that category. And we're a very big sponsor of local community organizations. We serve about 24,000 people, which is our biggest group, at the pavilion just through sponsored events. Our goal is to grow the business every year, and we're willing to work with the county on ways to do this. Just some performance highlights. We've increased our rent to the county every year of the contract, starting in 2012 with $44,000 a year, and it'll reach $58,000 a year in 2018. We've created a capital reserve fund, which has amassed around $70,000 through 2015, and we'll add another $20,000 this year. That was an important piece to the bid. I know the county felt, the Emerson Foundation felt strongly that whoever the operator was going to be, that there needed to be money earmarked to maintain and improve the facility as the years went on, because they made a large investment of the $4 million originally, and they want to make sure that that building is maintained the way it should be. We generated sales tax to the county of around $182,000 from 2012 to 2015. We've maintained the facility and the equipment as agreed. I've made a sizable investment in assets at the pavilion, around $75,000 in equipment. Developed a strong relationship with the county and park management. We've had tens of thousands of very satisfied customers. I just pulled up the recent reviews that are online. There's about 37 reviews that have been posted online. We have a 4.9 out of 5 rating. All very strong reviews. We've become the established operator of the pavilion with a proven track record and high-quality image in this area. We have maintained 100% contract compliance. We maintained 45 jobs during the tenure at the pavilion. I've funded an average of about $60,000 a year in community sponsorship to multiple organizations. We have a perfect track record with all regulating authorities, the New York State Liquor Authority, the New York State Health Department, Department of Finance, all the regulating authorities, perfect track record. There was a master plan developed for the Emerson Park in 2015. It was developed by the county, and several different folks were in collaboration with the county. It's our intention to maintain the pavilion as the crown jewel of the park and make it the cornerstone of this master plan. The plan also includes added concessions and a full-service restaurant, which we're fully supportive of. My goal is to make sure that we're best serving the county and community at the pavilion while also maintaining the historical and physical integrity of the building. So at this time, I wanted to give you folks an opportunity to ask questions, provide me with comments. Also, I'm willing to take emails, phone calls, and set up private meetings if you'd like.
Mr. Baxter?
Yes, I get numerous complaints from my district that there's nothing there for the average person to go in and use. I realize what your business is, the larger events. Is there anything you can do even before the master plan takes effect, so that when somebody goes to the merry-go-round theater, they could get some kind of concession stand or open up the 3 hours between the matinee and the evening? Everybody that talks to me feels that it's almost like it's your pavilion, not theirs. But you could do something to correct that. I wondered if you would.
I understand what you're saying, and I hear this I always hear this.
Yep.
And you know, the pavilion is designed, and it's intended to be an event facility. We do work hard to try to get more folks from the community through the facility, though, and that's through our community-sponsored events. Chamber of Commerce events, the Tomato Fest. There's a multitude of events that we do host at the pavilion to at least try to get the community through the facility and utilize the facility. We did attempt to do a concession like you just suggested with Merry-Go-Round Theater a couple of years ago, and we just had very, very low participation, and it cost far more than the revenue that was generated. There was quite a deficit there, and it just didn't work out. So I'm willing to listen to ideas. I think that, between my outfit, the county, feedback that you folks have, there may be some options. I think the master plan has some good solutions in it, if we can get to that point and bring it to fruition. But, I'm always willing to listen. I'm willing to try new things. I did try a restaurant concept a couple years ago also. So I'm willing to try new things as long as it doesn't cost me a fortune.
Mr. Dennison?
You talked about how in 2012 your lease or rent was $44,000, and it's continually going up. What is that based on? Is it a certain percentage of what you figure your income is going to be, or how do you figure that?
Yeah, it's a percentage based on actual food and beverage income. I report my income every month when I send the rent checks in. And in the first year, 2012, it was 10% of the food and beverage income. Every year after that, it's become 12%. So once we hit the rent threshold or the rent commitment, everything over and above that goes into the capital fund. And so every year I've agreed to increase the rent, and I'll continue to do that in future years.
Ms. McNair?
Hi,
do you-
I'm
Wait,
Amy.
before you start, do you have a follow-up, or is it a different question?
It's a different question.
Okay. Amy?
Sorry, I didn't hear you. Thank you for communicating with me recently. I just wanted to, and I'm new here, and I'm new to, being on the ledge and understanding this end of your business. I did want to express my disappointment with the recent loss to the pavilion being a concert venue to promote the Carol Baldwin Breast Cancer Research Foundation. And we had spoken of that. I do feel like it was a loss to the county and a loss to Emerson Park. We definitely could have used the revenue from the parking park. So I'm curious, it sounds like, you're open and you say that you have a lot of positive feedback from the outsiders. I'm hopeful that in the future you'll have more of an open mind when these events come up, and to deal with them so that we can continue to have great events happen at the park. And, so that's something I'm going to look forward to seeing from you.
Yep, we're absolutely, and like I mentioned to you in our conversation, our intention was to make that happen. What you're talking about is a last-minute event that kind of came together for 8,000 people, so there's a lot of planning and coordination that goes into that. And the person that was coordinating was trying to work with Tim, and I just think there were too many unknowns. Our only restriction in that particular case was the liquor authority issues, because we hold the liquor license there, so we can't allow other people to sell alcohol on that property. So that was a restriction. And we were against the idea of allowing 8,000 people access to the building because there's a lot of liability issues and potential problems with that. Those were our only two issues, but I'm not sure exactly where the communication broke down. It certainly was not our intent to defer that event from happening. We allowed it to happen on the, we opened up the calendar for it. We weren't going to charge any fees for it. So I'm not exactly sure what happened there.
Mr. Henson?
This might almost, you said you've put $75,000 of your own money into improvements? This might even be a question for Fred. If we're leasing the venue to him, how do you improve something that you don't own?
Maybe I should clarify that before you answer, Fred. $75,000 in equipment. So these are things that, like dishes, glassware. Removable things.
Okay.
These aren't fixed assets,
I'm good, Fred.
just to be clear. Yeah, I didn't want to drag Fred into it if you didn't need to.
So,
Keith.
Mr. Foley?
Hi, thank you. Let me just tell you why I would have some concerns with the possibility of renewing your contract. And it stems from things we've heard here tonight, including my colleague Terry Baxter, just saying that he has constituents coming up to him and saying, we would like more dining areas or something up there, more offerings. And your response to him was, well, it's more of an event facility. but I am willing to listen. So, I think that we're asking for additional dining opportunities up there, possibly concession stand, something like that. It would definitely be discussed, but you can say you're open, but until we actually see something happen, that would be a concern of mine. And you do have years to kind of make that happen if you can, until the option comes up to renew, but I did want to state that for the record.
Okay, thank you. If I may, kind of respond, I think there's probably no response that you can make to that, because it's a question looking forward. What I thought we would do moving forward, and it begins to get at some of these issues as well as discussion and coordination with you, is to appoint a small ad hoc committee to really talk over these things, for us to decide what it is we would like to see, and then to speak with you as we look to the option of renewing the lease for 3 years. That seems to me a way to get all of these issues out in the open, to discuss them thoroughly, and to come up with a plan of how they're going to be addressed. So that would be my intent. So I'll be talking with people about that group so we can get started. And then I would be asking you all next month for the kind of appointment confirmation of that group. So, any other questions at this point? Okay, great. So, well, thank you very much for coming.
All right, thank you, folks.
Thanks.
Jamie, can you leave us a copy of that?
Yeah, yep.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
If I could have a motion to dispense with Mr. Bennett, second? Anyone second? Thank you.
Who's second?
Ryan.
Thank you.
So, all in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye.
Dr. Durant. Thank you. Dr. Durant's report is attached. Does anyone have any questions? He asked me about talking about the budget again, and what I told him was he or members of his staff has presented twice, once at Government Ops and once at Ways and Means, and I think most everyone was at one of those meetings or both. However, I want to make certain, if anyone has any questions on the budget, now would be the time. Are there any other questions as well? But Mr. Baxter has
Yeah, I have
a
a
question.
question, not on the budget, but
Oh.
about 3 months ago, we met at the college, and I had the question of the expense of a student for Cayuga College compared to one that was attending here and one that was attending in Fulton. I didn't see the numbers yet.
Yeah, we talked about that recently. We've been trying to solidify a methodology that makes sense to really reflect what I think answers the question and gets at it. And I'll give you an example of why it's not as straightforward as perhaps it could be. We have a high percentage of our students who attend either Fulton or Auburn are taking at least one or more courses online. And just like coincidentally, many of our faculty that are full-time faculty assigned to either campus, they have a home campus. They also are teaching one or more of their courses online. So we need to come up with a methodology to get through some of that, to really reflect some of the expenses and some of the revenues that are generated, even though that you may be taking courses online. Really, by offering courses online and in Fulton, you have to give some credit, if you will, for the fact that they're a student of ours at all, and then some credit for the revenue, even though it may not be physically at that plant. The other pieces to that, as you know, we've had some changes in some of our expenses on the capital side or on the rental side that we're looking to solidify to be able to get a clear number too. So Dan and I have met recently. We've talked a little bit with the chairman as well, and we anticipate to give at least a starting point presentation of that information here in the coming weeks. I apologize for the delay. We wanted to try to be as thorough as possible at the same time to give an honest and clear picture.
It'll have to be like a political poll with a plus or minus 3% either way.
You're asking an academic to
get
take on a
simple.
simple question.
And forgive me, I didn't mean to cut off any report you may have. So
Yeah, I just have a couple.
Let us start over. Dr. Duran, you have a report.
I appreciate that, Chairman. Just a couple of things. One, I'm joined here tonight by one of our trustees, Melina. Thank you for being here. In the last meeting, that's not in my written report, is the terms for our leadership were up, and it was kind of acts as part of the meeting as our sort of annual meeting to reset. And there's been a new chair elected, and that new chair is Dr. Linda Van Buskirk. So effective immediately, she now assumes the role of chair, replacing Jeff Edwards, who served in that capacity for 3 years. So I want to just publicly say that we appreciate the leadership and effort from Jeff Edwards, and we're looking forward to our work together with Chair Van Buskirk. In addition to that, I just want to say that obviously before you tonight, as already mentioned, is consideration of our 2016-17 budget. And as always, I appreciate the general support that the county has and gives us, including the legislature, and I just ask for your support tonight. We spent a great deal of time of kind of resetting and retooling the way that we develop our budget as an institution. We've cut 5% off our overall budget from the 15-16 budget to our proposed budget of 16-17, and we feel like we've done a really thorough job of doing analysis on every aspect of our budget that's before you. So just thank you in advance for any support and your consideration.
Great, thank you. Are there any other questions? Great, thank you very much. So committee reports and individual legislators' reports? No, Mr. Dennison.
Yeah, I just want to tell everyone on July 22nd at the Ag Museum, there will be 300 or more Model Ts with 600 possibly people there between 8 and 8:30 in the morning. And I forgot, Gary said they're sticking around too. They're going to be at the, but I forgot the date you told me. Yeah, so they'll be around here for 5-6 days, so that'll be a boost. So, and another thing, I spoke with Jim earlier. Had to go to Tractor Supply earlier, so I stopped and bought some fireworks. And I was talking to the girl there at Phantom Fireworks was the one in front of Tractor Supply. TNT is in front of Walmart. I was talking to the girl at Phantom. She says they have 8 to 9 tents around New York State right now. Normally their best-selling one is in Niagara Falls. Auburn is outselling Niagara Falls.
Yeah.
And they did charge sales tax.
And that's sales tax, that's what I was
So,
gonna say.
that's-
Yeah, yeah.
Just wanted to bring that up. And then just to remind everybody about the Big Six picnic, the 28th, 29th, and 30th of July. Hopefully, I know Keith sent something out today, or excuse me, Doug sent something out today to all of us with the dates and times for when, you know, elected officials should be there to hand out ribbons and stuff. I'm good.
Thank you. Okay. Mr. Vitale.
As many of you know, we've been working as a capital working group since probably early February, middle February. I haven't given any reports as of yet, but I'd like to kind of give an update as to where we've been and where we're going so far. The group is made up of Gary Duckett, our facilities person, George Wethy, Suzanne has attended some, the chairman has attended some, Paul Pinkney, and Pat Mahunik and myself. And one of the first things we did look at was we reviewed all and evaluated all the county's facilities and buildings. We identified areas of concern and where improvements really need to be made, and some rough cost estimates of those improvements. We looked for opportunities to make improvements that could save the county money. And I use this as an example. LED lighting these days saves a lot of money. So we looked at what facility uses its lights most often. It's a public safety building. The lights are probably on 24/7 some places. So that's an idea or an area that we could look at for possibly returning some savings quickly to the county. And this ties in very closely to the RFPs for the possible energy performance contracts in all of our buildings. So you know, the energy performance contract, those RFPs are kind of out there right now. We're reviewing them. I'm pretty confident in July we'll be coming back with some kind of recommendations to this full body. But in our most recent meeting, what we did is we looked at what the priorities are. And earlier on last, I think in May, we actually went over to probation and we had a meeting at probation and saw the conditions that, you know, that we're dealing with over there. So, I mean, probation was one of those areas that's definitely a very high priority. We looked at areas where we think we can save money as a county by moving different departments next to each other or together, closer together, so that they can share employees or share space a little bit. And so that's, you know, those types of priorities are really important. And then another priority that pops up all the time is the condition of this county office building. Windows are questionable. A lot of the spaces, we have spaces that's, some spaces aren't used efficiently, other spaces are way too crowded. And then most recently in the last couple of weeks, we've seen the requirements for asbestos testing is expounded, and the cost of that is going to be a little bit crazy for the county. So in order to do any work at all in this building, we probably have to spend between $130,000 and $150,000 just in testing. Earlier on, when we looked at the overall improvements of this county office building, an estimate was around $12 million. I have some connections outside in different areas, and I asked somebody to run the cost of a building the same exact size through Means, which is a software that architects and engineers use, and the cost for replacing this building was almost identical to the cost of renovating it. Granted, if we were to build a brand new building, it wouldn't only be that, it would be site work and other work involved also. But one of the things that I think we really need to consider before we start putting more money into a building that's in this kind of shape with the amount of asbestos is maybe it's more economical to build something new that helps us increase our efficiencies. We can gain efficiencies through energy use. We can gain efficiency through how we have our organization set up physically so that we can actually share employees better. There's a possibility of even sharing some areas with the city, which would open us to consolidation grant money from the state. So I'm not saying that the committee is saying to build a brand new building, but I'm telling you that we need to seriously look at it. Seriously look at if the savings were enough to pay the debt service, why wouldn't we? So the committee is, I think, it's done quite a bit of work. We still have some work to do. Those requests for proposals are going to be very interesting because it offers us the opportunity to really look in a little bit deeper into what some of these costs could be, what kind of savings we could have, not just in the buildings we have now, but in possibly in future buildings. And then ultimately, you have to consider all the buildings that we have. We have the historic post office, which we don't use totally, very expensive building to operate. We looked at what it costs to operate all of our facilities. Mental health building, the Hardenberg building, the historic post office, the courthouse. And it's really, really amazing what it costs to operate some of these buildings. And just like any type of consolidation, whether it's within the county, within the city and the county, or we look at it with school districts, unless you can consolidate and eliminate buildings, the cost savings aren't always that big. But when you can eliminate facilities and buildings, it really makes a big difference. So I'm not telling you that we're at a certain point where we're gonna make a recommendation, but I'm telling you that all of us should start thinking about, you know, what are we gonna do in the future here? I remember when this building was built and I was a little kid and they had the lights on 24/7 because that was energy, it was energy efficient. The heating system worked with the lights. We all drove by and we listened to our father every night saying, shut the lights off, shut the lights off. We go by and we say, the lights are all on, Dad. It's interesting. The building is not that young. But just like to catch everybody up on where we are and where we're going and what we've been doing.
You say you're old.
I am old, yes. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Are there any other reports, committee or individual legislators? Thank you. Ms. Sinclair.
Mr. Batten. So I have a report which is in the box that looks very similar to the Ways and Means report, but I would like to add that Tim Lattimore, Jim Orman, Mike Russell, and I met with our deferred compensation representative last week, and, you know, the conversation is ongoing. They have a contract through 2017. They brought us, Kevin Caligari is his name, brought us up to date on the number of participants in the county and the total assets and things, you know, basic stats like that. We are discussing some opportunities for participant information and education so that perhaps we can build up the participation and help our employees as they move through their careers. So I just wanted to mention that. If there are any questions?
Yes, no questions. Thank you. So my report, I did participate in St. Baldrick's and I shaved actually my mustache and my hair. It's growing back very, very fast. And the one thing I'll say, it is. What do you mean? What are you laughing about? My mustache, anyway. One of the things I will share, and I told a number of people this story already, and so forgive me if you have to repeat, but I always have to take the opportunity to credit my wife with her support. So when I was talking about doing it, I've never shaved my mustache, ever, never. And so it was a big step for me. I finally told her, well, I think I'm going to do it. It's just it would be inappropriate not to. She said, well, she said, Keith, I know you think you have hair, but you don't. You might as well shave your head. You won't look any different. And I said, I have hair. And she said, I know you think you have hair. And then I gave her a look. She said, suit yourself. So I decided to shave my head, and I did notice I don't look any different. But that's a great, and you don't want to think, Pat, thank you for embarrassing me into doing it. I'm very pleased that I did it. It's a wonderful project, a wonderful charity, and thank you. The bass tournament that just ended, what day is this? It's Tuesday, so it would have been, the final weigh-in was Sunday. It was actually a great success. Over 17,000 people attended this year, something like 6 million viewers on the ESPN channel. And as in the past, when we did this 2 years ago, we committed funds, if they were needed, $10,000, and the committee was able to leverage that so that our money won't be needed. So it was an important contribution to make because it does allow the leveraging of other funds, but it's a win-win for us. It cost us nothing. We got a lot of people in here, and we'll see what the final numbers are if we can kind of put together those. It'll probably take a couple months to get a feel for sales tax and room tax and so on. I also Saturday attended the governor's Bass Challenge in Onondaga County, chatted there with the lieutenant governor and brought back some souvenirs. Met with the Sewer and Water Authority on their plans, and we're going to have another meeting this week to see where they are in moving forward. And finally, the stage 4 discussions continue. So these are all things that are ongoing. So that's my report. Does anyone have any questions of me? Okay, thank you.
Appointments and reappointments?
Could I have a motion to take these as a group? Thank you, Mr. Didio. Second?
The reading of the appointment.
Yeah. And a second? Mr. Reginelli? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Communications and announcements?
And again, a motion.
to waive the
Mis-
reading of communication and appointments.
Thank you. Mr. Didio and Mr. Dennison? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, our resolutions. Mr. Farrell, if you could do our regular monthly resolutions and Ways and Means?
Mr. Chairman, I present 1A and 1B, regular monthly resolutions. They've been through committee and been approved.
Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Mr. Chairman, I present WM2, the revised list as far as the tax delinquent properties to be repurchased. Has been through committee, has been approved.
Are there any questions on this? Okay. Because it's revised, do we need a motion in a second?
Yes.
Okay, so Mr. Farrell motions.
Second.
Mr. Mahunik seconds. Okay, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, WM1 was pulled. It was the one that was approved at Ways and Means, but the language that was in there needed to be corrected. So we're presenting WM3 that updates what we spoke of at the meeting, but was not in the resolution. I'll make it as a motion, and I need a second. I also asked that in the title, authorize the creation and filling of a GIS analyst position and a senior, if we take out tax map specialist and make it a GIS specialist.
Thank you. Okay, there's a motion, Mr. Bennett seconded. Is there any discussion of this? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Bennett?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Health and Human Services has 3 resolutions that have been through committee, both committees, and approved. I'd like to offer them up as a bundle.
Any objection? Okay, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Foley?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Government Operations does have 4 resolutions. GO 1, 2, and 3 were presented at Government Operations in the past. I'd like to present them as a bundle unless anyone would like one pulled out.
Mr. Didio?
All GO4, please.
Yep.
It was,
Yeah.
okay. So just GO 1, 2, and 3 is.
GO 1, 2, and 3. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. GO 4.
Okay, so GO4 was discussed at Government Operations. I don't believe it was voted upon. It was brought up at Ways and Means and discussed again, and then this resolution came about. Basically, what.
Okay, before you do that, I think we probably need a motion in a second. So, are you motioning?
I'll motion.
Okay,
for
and then
it.
could I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Pinckney, now, thank you, if you could
Okay.
explain.
Basically, what this does is make the county whole. And I don't want to get into too much legalese with this, but Sue, if you could just explain exactly what this does, so everyone is well informed, that would be great.
Sure. Can everybody hear me? So this is paying the county for doing the mortgage tax. We do everything with the mortgages that we collect. And so it's paying us, it hasn't been increased since 2003. So we would get retained from, right now we get 119,000. We would retain 199,992. And that is a formula that is put forth by New York State Taxation and Finance that we use. Some counties increase their mortgage tax expense every year. We haven't done it since 2003, so it's basically paying us for doing the work.
Okay, Discussion?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I for one would like to postpone this vote until next month. I've only been able to speak with one of the towns that I represent. I'm eager to speak with the second town I represent, as this would affect them. I believe the towns would not see this any other way than us keeping revenue from them. So I think that more discussion needs to happen with the town, so I would like to postpone the vote, if that's possible.
Are you making a motion at this point or just a statement?
Can I?
You can do anything.
I'd like to make a motion to postpone the vote to July meeting.
Okay. Is there a second? Mr. Didio, you second it, or, okay. So a discussion on the motion to postpone a vote until the July meeting? Mr. Whitman?
I have to agree with some of what Aileen is saying. However, this is a process that we're doing, and we're doing it at least a percentage of it at our cost. We're losing money at it. And of course, if we ask the towns how they feel about it, they're not gonna be in favor of losing any type of revenue. In the end, it's coming out of the same pocket, it's coming out of my pocket, it's coming out of taxpayers' pocket. It's just a matter of at what point it's coming out of their pocket. Unfortunately, government does have the trickle-down effect. If we want to make ourselves whole, the town, in turn, is going to make themselves whole. It's going to be reflected in their budget or our budget. I would just as soon pass it and make ourselves whole at this point. It's not a huge hit to the towns. I think it's around a 4% for the average town. It varies depending on the towns. So I don't think it's going to impact them too greatly. I, for one, would just rather get it over with. That's my 2 cents.
Thank you. Any other thoughts? Mr. Baxter?
I would agree with Aileen that waiting until July is not gonna hurt, the impact's not gonna hurt us or the towns. If some people are more comfortable with a little more information out there, I would wait.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Pinckney?
I would also support that, and in adding on to it, possibly the circulation of the numbers that Sue provided us with the hits that the towns will possibly be taking based on last year's numbers. And one more thing of maybe including of what we're gonna do in the future, so we're not playing catch-up again. So I would have no problems supporting this delay for 1 month.
Mr. DeForest?
I'm fine with towns finding out what the hit they might take is, but it also has to be presented that the county is taking the hit right now and has been for 12 years. So long as that message goes out loud and clear.
I just want to say, you did get the chart that says what they're going to take, right? Okay, I just want to.
Yeah, and as a reminder, what that chart shows is the something a little less than half of the would affect the towns. I think it was 40.
It's a whole year, but it's the state's fiscal year, so it's
Right.
actually what they get, the towns would get this every 6 months. We send out that money, so, every 6 months, for instance, Aileen, you would be, Wasco is 3702, 3,000, and that would be half of that every 6 months. Yeah. So if you have any questions in the meantime, I'd be happy to answer.
Mr. Denson?
So basically what it amounts to in plain English is we're just getting back what, for the service they're providing that the town's not paying for.
Yes, that's my understanding. Is that accurate, Sue?
Yes.
It's either that or the town, has a sue and does it themselves.
Is that a head shake yes, or?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
But is that
We
an
do
option?
the work, we give the money to the towns.
Is that an option?
Is it an option for the towns to do it themselves?
No.
No. Okay, so- Okay, any other questions on the amendment, which is to postpone. Do you have something to add? I didn't mean to cut you off.
I was just gonna piggyback on what Mr. DeForest said. I think that although the formula has been antiquated, I think the towns would readily say it's not their fault. That, you know, we didn't notice that, or we haven't changed the formula, and that now we would be making these decisions that would affect their revenue.
And that's a good question, if I may. If we pass this, it takes effect when?
We would name the date.
Okay, so we could do it so it wouldn't take effect until fiscal year the
You could
17.
backdate it and you could forward date.
Right, so, okay, and we would decide that when?
We decided when we write the letter to the New York State Department of Taxation and Finance after we would pass the resolution.
Okay, so if we make the date January 1st, 2017, then it won't have any impact on this year's budget for the towns and villages.
Right.
Okay. Okay,
But
any,
We do this in April. We send 2 checks a year, and the treasurer, it goes out of the treasurer's office when we send it out then, right? Not by real property. So, really doesn't run a calendar year, it's a fiscal year for the state, so, so it wouldn't be, yeah, you're right, part of the year would be the higher price and part now.
okay, thank you. Okay, are we ready to vote on the amendment? The amendment is to postpone the decision until July. So, if I could have a show of hands, when you say yes? 1, 2.
You want a roll call?
Does anyone want a roll call? I think this is a straight majority. So 5 affirmative, negative? In other words, vote now, vote tonight? Okay, everyone's got to vote.
Chairman, let's do a roll call vote on the
Okay, let's do a
amendment.
roll call then.
Yep.
Okay, so this is on the amendment to postpone the decision until July.
All set? Okay, Tucker Whitman,
No.
Andrew Dennison,
No.
Ben Vitale,
No.
Mark Farrell,
No.
Yep, Judicial. Paul Pinkney,
Yes.
Elaine McNabb Coleman,
Yes.
Joseph DeForest, Terry Baxter,
Yes.
Joseph Bennett,
No.
Frank Reginelli,
No.
Patrick Mahonik,
No.
Timothy Lattimore is excused, Michael Didio,
Yes.
Ryan Foley,
No.
Keith Batman.
Yes.
Defeated.
Okay, so the amendment's defeated. Are we ready to vote on the motion, or do you want more discussion? Okay. Does anyone want a roll call of this?
Yes.
Okay, so if we get a roll call.
Okay, this is just a vote on the way it is, right? Tucker Whitman,
Yes.
Andy Dennison,
Yes.
Ben Vitale,
Yes.
Mark Farrell,
Yes.
Paul Pickney,
No.
Elaine McNabb Coleman,
No.
Joe DeForest,
Yes.
Terry Baxter,
No.
Joseph Bennett,
Yes.
Frank Reginelli,
Yes.
Patrick Mahonik,
Yes.
Timothy Lattimore is excused, Michael Didio,
No.
Ryan Foley,
Yes.
Keith Batman.
Yes.
Passed.
Okay, thank you. Have to find my place here. Okay, that concludes government operations. Is that correct, Mr. Foley?
That is, thank you, Chairman.
Mr. Pinkney?
Mr. Chairman, planning has 8 resolutions before you. I'd like to offer as a bundle. All have been through both committees.
Anyone want any separated? In that case, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Vitale?
Mr. Chairman, Public Works has 3 resolutions. PW2 was amended in committee, but was brought to Ways and Means as amended and went, so realistically, all 3 have been through both committees, and I would like to offer them as a bundle.
Does anyone object? I assume since it was modified Ways and Means, we don't. Okay, great. Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Mr. Mahunik?
Mr. Chairman, Judicial and Public Safety, we have 4 resolutions. They have been through both committees. I would offer them as a bundle unless anybody would like any separated.
Does anyone want any of these separated? Very good, then. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Is that in opposition, or you have another thing?
Question, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, question on GO4. Will that go back through committee next month, the amendment with the date? You made a suggested date, but we did not amend it. So will that go back to committee to have a date put on it for when it will go into effect?
Yeah, there is no date on the motion.
There's no date. We would put that into the letter written to the New York State Department of Taxation and Finance. However, I don't know if one of the requirements was to add a date to the resolution.
There wasn't a motion.
It is not, but the legislature may feel more comfortable having a date and resolution that can either be done now or at committee.
Is everyone okay with doing it at committee?
Yep.
Mr. Vitale?
Yes, I would recommend that we do it at committee, and also, while at the same time, we might add something to it that says that we're gonna review it every 2 years or something to that effect.
Okay.
So that this 12-year span or 14-year span does not occur again.
So to show legislative intent, but not necessarily part of the motion?
Right.
Okay.
But the resolution itself passed, correct?
Yes. Yeah. So we're just going to establish a date and then the intent to review it, which the, someone will have to remember. Well, they have to remember it's part of the motion anyway. So, Mr. Foley?
We're doing this at government operations? is that
Yes.
correct?
So you're gonna bring the resolution back?
No, just a discussion about what date to put it
Okay.
into effect.
We just wanna make sure we're on the right page.
Yep,
Thank
great.
you.
Thank you. Okay, we have 2 legislative, resolutions. Let's take these separately. So the first one is encouraging the Federal Office of National Drug Control Policy to hold a community forum. This has been through, I think, all the committees. So is there any discussion on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Great. Okay, and the second one is fixing the day and the notice of a public hearing on a proposed local law, the County of Cayuga, establishing a Cayuga County motor vehicle tax pursuant to New York State tax law, sections 1202A and 1202E. And this also has been through committee, so is there discussion on this? And the date of that public hearing will be, I don't have the thing in front of me. It's probably next month.
Yes, 7.
So we'd have the public hearing July 26th.
7/26.
However,
Say that again, the date, please.
7/26?
Yeah.
July 26th?
yeah, and if we could, if actually I could have an amendment to this to establish the time of the public hearing to 5, right? Does it
Yes.
say 6 in the thing?
It does.
Okay, so, and I think we should formally amend this. So could I have a motion to change the time to 5 PM?
Motion.
Mr. Bennett and Mr. Farrell? Okay, so let's vote on the amendment. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, any discussion on the full? Then, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you very much. So at this point, we'll go into a closed session seeking the legal advice or the advice of legal counsel. So if I could ask Mr. Buderman, our administrator, our attorney, Mr. Russell, right here, stay. So could I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Executive session?
Mr. Farrell, and seconded several people, Mr. Martell.
Yes.